Hello everybody, and welcome back to the second part of our review of a California Ghost Kings album, Protools Calls of Zion. My name is Holden Stephan.
Hi, I'm your lady fan, Bonnie.
This is the Headspace Podcast, the show where we break down new hip-hop albums track by track, giving our thoughts and opinions on every song. Mr. California Ghost Kings album is coming out October 30th, unless I'm mistaken, and somebody will correct that in the comments or whatever. And you should watch for that. We'll definitely link to it in the description of this very video once it goes live. But meanwhile, we talked about the first 5 songs. There was so much to talk about. It took so very long. I mean that it's been one of our longest episodes in a minute for 5 songs. It was because, not the badness or anything, it's because there's that much depth to the lyrics that we've encountered so far on this project.
Yep.
But I also don't want to waste too much time here because we've already done a whole bunch and we're actually a little pushing it on time and availability on our real life end of things. So moving in to the next track on the album, Control of the Press.
Let's do it.
Niggas act like they bourgeoisie. So from the underground, I make the industry deep.
All right, Bonnie, how do you think about this one?
So it sounds like Mario jumping in the beat, which is cool. Again, my kind of weird things in beats is always fun. And it's nice. Like, the overall sound is pretty cool. It definitely sounds like he's upset about Black people, men in particular, in this song, or at least what he's making references to. Basically who are in like the public eye, should not be necessarily doing outlandish things like wearing a dress. And like, in my mind, this is something that he's touched on before on this album, and in my mind, like, I'm assuming he's referring to Billy Porter, who wore the black velvet gown to the Oscars.
West wore a dress.
I feel like this got a lot of media review, or not like media review, but like media attention because of this black gown that was worn at the Oscars in February of this past year.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, it was a very lovely dress. I mean, I thought it was fine, but a lot of people were all up in arms about it, and that a black man should not be doing things like this for press attention, for media attention, to gain that attention. And I guess, negative or positive, it worked. And basically because like he's saying, like, you're not being true to yourself, and you're playing a part. You're playing into what the white man wants, what the public eye, the media attention. Like, you're sort of doing that, and you should learn to control the press in a different way and do different things that are going to not necessarily hurt you or your people or your fan base or whatever. So, I mean, it's very cool, and I respect his opinion 100%, but it's not my opinion. Wear a dress, who cares?
But if we want to just double up on that as a metaphor, that your favorite rapper is a whore. And it's no, but I mean it more like when you're saying wear a dress, it's more whoring yourself out.
Yeah, yes.
So I seen your favorite MC on TMZ posing like a G, but he's truly Princess and the P, and he may be a trap queen, saying he did it for the money and big streams, but I am supreme, and we all need that cream, but the press rule everything around me. So yeah, we all want to make money, but if your choice on route of making money is to basically make a fool of yourself,
yep,
which is a lot of the case what it
goes
looks
back
like
to the coonery or whatever.
But in a lot of ways, right, if your goal of wearing a dress is to wear a dress because it's what you think is what you want to wear or whatever, that's one thing, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of people wearing dresses to get media headlines.
Yeah.
And that's kind of whorish. Media whorish. That's why they're media whores. Yeah. So it is kind of like that. So I don't think it's 100% that wearing a dress is inherently bad, although there might be to some level of that. But I think it's more doing that kind of stuff for attention is the wrong way to go about getting attention for the sake of integrity. But I love that cream and press rules everything around me line. Like, I love that because cash rules everything around me. But now it seems the only way to get the cash is to get that press, right? So if you can get control of the press, you win. But instead, I feel like this is subverting that to taking back control of the press so that we can follow suit on the plan of re-educating people properly like we're supposed to, because clearly the press is such a powerful and predominant force. And it is. And
Yep.
it's stupid. It's like some of the shit that is like, I don't know if you guys have watched the show Designated Survivor on Netflix, but one of my favorite parts of that series was in an episode we just watched where the press secretary guy on that show, who's played by Cal Penn, gives his rant about gossip and what news really is. And if you look at press, it's just gossipy fucking nonsense. Like, just because you wear a dress doesn't actually reflect anything on your talent, on who you are, on your character. It's just, okay, who fucking cares? At the end, that's how I feel about it. Like, great. But then I also see the damage of it. I also see like the other side. It tells the message. Well, if you wear a dress, you get the headlines. That's a message that gets sent out. And you might say, I don't see it like that because perhaps in your world, you know, some people that wear dresses for different reasons. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about, like, let's say a drag queen doing their thing in their corner where it honestly isn't outside of RuPaul, like, the most publicized world. It's kind of a niche.
But I just think it's also, like, just the whole idea, like, of breaking, like, societal norms. Like, women got so much attention when we started wearing pants. So why can't this just be like the other way around?
Women were trying to wear pants because women weren't allowed to wear pants, even though in a lot of cases it was practical. Like wearing pants was like, there was no good reason for you not to wear pants, as an example. It was sexist. It was suppressive.
Yeah.
This isn't like men fighting for the right to wear dresses because of sexism or whatever. This is men.
Styles can change.
But there's a difference between clickbaiting yourself to get buzz.
Like, I get it, obviously. Yeah.
Anyway, so, you know, California Ghost King's here to bring in the real message, you know, and it's pretty cool. I really like it, you know. Free press, full court press since kicking Cortez. I was never wearing a dress. Press play, press rewind. As we see, their Paul McCartney players, all their press is in decline. And I love that, right? Because Paul McCartney does a lot of sellout-ass bullshit these days. Doesn't he show up at the fucking British guy, Corbin, just to do random shows? And like, it's all like, yo, I don't respect him. You know, like he might be like a legend.
Well, he did that song with Rihanna and Kanye. I feel like that's also...
And it's like, what are you doing? You're not actually getting good press for your moves. You're getting press. There is this weird idea in the world that all press is good press, and that's a lie. It's a real big lie.
I don't know.
Scandal works for some strategies for some people. Scandal is not a universally good thing. And if you talk about lifetime value acquisition of wealth, scandal isn't a lifetime value move. Scandal's a quick win.
Yeah.
So therefore, you hurt your brand, and Paul McCartney is less famous because of these things than had he been, like, no, if we're doing all the TV shit.
Less famous.
Absolutely.
I don't think his people forget about who he is.
I think he's not doing anything interesting to capture new fans, and his old fans are dying. So he's in fact less famous than he used to be. I'm sorry, but he's not more famous than he was. He's not relevant. He's not anything. He's just like a novelty act for old people. Like, people want to act like the Beatles are relevant. They're not. They're fading. Their immortal status was a lie. It turned out that they're not as relevant today as they were supposed to be. Because when I grew up, the Beatles are forever. Nah, I'm not seeing it. I'm not.
I mean, I'll disagree.
You will. But then in 20 years, when the kids don't even know what the Beatles are.
I think that...
Why is there a documentary about the fading relevancy of the Beatles?
It's not a documentary.
It's a movie?
A movie.
Okay, why is there a movie about the fading relevancy of the Beatles?
And how it reinvigorated the entire world with this music.
In the current world?
Yes!
Either way, the Beatles is fading. The Beatles is not popular now. They are dropped.
Because we need more music about love and pot, apparently.
Well, the Beatles is full of shit lyrically. Like, most of their music is vapid fake
Well, it's better
messaging.
than saying about drugs and, well, I mean, I guess drugs
I would
are
say
still definitely included,
literally,
but like different,
no.
less
The Beatles
downy
is
drugs.
The Beatles is right in the realms of the type of music I think California Ghost King's targeting. Like, I think people act like the Beatles is protest music. It's not. They were coined to it, but you go through lyrical breakdowns of the Beatles, maybe you have Strawberry Fields Forever, but you have more bullshit like All You Need Is Love, which is false. It's not true. It's
a
really
positive
vapid.
message.
The Beatles is vapid music lacking real substance and depth. It was just really revolutionary for the time. The core themes, the fan base, they're basically a bunch of middle-class judgmental fuckers who love the Beatles. Like, it's really not music of the people, it's music of the elitists. In 2019.
Okay.
I mean, sure, in the 60s it played a different role because of the culture of the 60s and what was accepted.
The elitist, I mean, like, there's hip-hop that's coming out now that talks about mentions them and puts in like
because
Beatles
when you're
lines and stuff
comparing
like
yourself to greatness, it's relevant. But like I'm saying, when I go through the Beatles music and I hear what they have to say, I'm going, where the fuck is this depth everybody sees? Where the fuck is this great lyricism of inspiration and stuff? To me, it's as good as Justin Bieber's level of inspiration. It's just pop music. It's just vapid, fun pop music. Like, it's been a hard day's night.
Like at the beginning, yes, there was
That's
that.
like a lot of it. And then they did a lot of drugs and did a lot of drug stuff.
And then they did like Blackbird.
I'll give it to you. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club contradicts me. Okay, what about the rest of it?
I'm not going to go into the Beatles discography. We don't have time for that.
Well,
Let's get back on to this. So, what did you think about it?
Well, I was saying that I like how Paul McCartney's using press today is not good for his brand, and that it which is what I was trying to say, exemplifies that not all press is good press, and control your press, control understanding shit, you know, and then gaining control of the press lets you kind of sell the imaging of what you want it to be. And then I also liked how he's like slamming homographs down deep the throat of the public, letting their boys be their boy done it, not onyx, impressing weak to wear their family's crest while their own bloodline remains oppressed. These associated keep the good news suppressed, trying to stir up the blind state of unrest. They're so deceitful, hitting fetal people in the hypodermic needles, so I bust the magic bullets because most of these streams be crooked. Same sort of idea, but really doubling down on it. I don't think it's really branching into a whole lot of new in this point. But yeah, overall, I like this track. I think it follows suit in the core themes of the album. It's got a really strong idea to it, and I gave it a 4.35 on 5. And I think this music has depth that the Beatles couldn't touch. I'm throwing this music is good for society. What California Ghost King is doing is good for society in the way that the Beatles is bad for society. It's the opposite. I think the Beatles music encourages complacent idiocracy in the way it manifests in 2019 because it's not the 60s anymore, and the messages they're saying aren't relevant today.
Guys,
Anyway.
you don't always need love. I'll
That's
just
true.
say that much, I guess.
And I think that we maybe get a lot caught up with distractions on this podcast. Did you give a grade?
Yeah.
Okay, distractions on this podcast.
Yeah, all right.
Adamant ancients, sipping lean like patience until arraignments have you dealing with liens on con.
Hey, Bunny, what do you think about this one?
Well, this one sounds a little bit more like trappy almost a little bit. And again, like this was one that I felt like he sounded like on and off a little bit more like Snoop Dogg, so definitely like that West Coast kind of feeling. It has a super funky beat. It's only 1 minute and 17, so it's not super long. And basically he's saying that the old guy rappers who just talk shit about the young ones, but you're just like sitting around being angry and petty, and meanwhile the true artists are still out there making their art, being who they are, doing what they do, and they're continuing to grind. And he's basically just sort of flabbergasted that, you know, like these older rappers that are saying like, oh, you're not doing what, you know, we used to do. You can't see that for yourself, and to, you know, just quit bitching and get out there and do it, and do, you know, just don't talk. Like basically he's just hearing all this hate, and he's like, well, you're not doing anything. I'm doing stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's funky. It definitely has a good message, and definitely kind of reminding to the, you know, those people that they need to look inwards and judge themselves first and see what they are doing in, you know, today's day, and, you know, not what they did 20 years ago or whatever. So I thought it was cool. I gave it a 4.4 on 5.
I think my favorite part of this track is how, as the track like moves on, you kind of have this effect take over his voice, and it kind of turns into what you would hatefully call auto-tune rap.
Yeah.
Even though, or mumble rap, which is my least favorite
Or more
term.
trap, because then I did call it trap.
Because like very few guys that actually mumble their way through songs charted. Most of these guys enunciated well, but you couldn't hear it through the effects. And I'm saying that to all the old cats that hated and called this shit mumbling. Because you go listen to a new genre of music with like a drastically different vocal style, and it will come off like mumbling at first. And a good example is throw on death metal. Then go read the lyrics of the song along with the death metal. Listen to the song 5 times, and it doesn't sound like aimless growling anymore. It sounds like fucking clear as fuck words. In the same way that to a lot of people who even listen to hip-hop like this, they can't follow it because they're not familiar with it, but it's actually pretty clear. So a lot of the older cats that want to call things mumble rap don't actually know what the word mumble means. You might not be able to tell. So that's mumbling. These guys aren't mumbling. They're saying shit, often with different accents, and like, you know, you could call Southern fucking talking mumbling if you're in the North. You know, we're fucking pretentious and our quick speaking, kind of like this. But if I were to go up, like, nobody in the South is talking this quick. Like, all right, maybe some guys are, but for the most part, even the general conversation in the South is at a pace of conversation that isn't this Northern speed. There's so much of this shit goes into what y'all call mumbling. I digress. That's not the point. Who mumbles? Like, I want to know who's actually mumbling. A couple of them. Designer kind of mumbled. But even then, you're able to go, I got broads in Atlanta. You're able to say the words. How come? Oh, because you could understand what he was saying.
Yep.
Right. I guess he wasn't. Baffled, bamboozle, befuddlement in this rap game, bewilderment. Oh, I like a good alliteration point. Bewilderment's becoming prominent. Rap moguls sport big-breasted whores like ornaments. Age, and that's an interesting point. Like, you got these big rap guys who are coming with these fake-ass plastic women, you know, representing it. So you have these age-old legends setting a tone for what the young kids are gonna follow. Age-old tournament between garden serpents and adamant ancients, sipping lean like patience until arraignments have you dealing with liens on condos from mom's basement because your old Jones got them racks gone from what she popped out when you were getting her back blowing. He ain't 18, but lil talk grown selling. TMZ picture tree from your old phone. Now you're an old head and never had a head, only got mad head because you're angry when you think of the tranny who gave you loads ahead. For low payments as your old agent ducks your calls with your replacement. So it is kind of looking at the fact that a lot of dudes is living a certain way. The world moved on. You didn't adapt. And, you know, shit changes and you're being a hater.
Yep.
And that's why the Beatles can't be relevant because the world keeps changing. And the Beatles haven't been a band since 1970. It's weird if they would still be relevant today. That's what I'm trying to convey here. Anyway, I love this song. I like when he goes, look at these distractions tempting me like every day. Look at these distractions. My mind can't get away. No, look at all these distractions. I don't want no more. These rappers are whores selling out their people to get a foot through the door now. And in a sense, a lot of these cats in the 90s, I mean, people act like there weren't bad rappers in the 90s today. Like, people really do act like there just wasn't bad music.
Like, all rap music from the 90s was, like...
And we heard all the featured artists on all of those albums. Do you remember when rappers would put whoever's in the fucking room on their album?
Yes.
I'm just saying, not everybody in the 90s is fucking dope. There was trash back then, too. But... I think it's more to the point, there was a lot more substance back then, and people had some integrity, but there was a lot of selling out going on. But a lot of those cats who grew up and stayed relevant, I guess, are setting a tone now where the only way to get into the door, it seems, is this bad, sellout-y type stuff. Everyone's distracted. That's another point I thought was interesting. The temptation, the distractions. Like, if you're going to do this right, a lot of these legends, Kendricks, a lot of these guys, 7 years behind the scenes before you really heard of them. 7 years before they really put in any real pop level status where you know who he is. 7 years before Good Kid, Mad City, I think. Maybe Section 80. I don't remember which one of those albums was the 7-year point for him. So... distractions are things like gimmicky sellout moves, I think, to get you in the door quicker, and all the shit you can do to expedite that speed without staying committed to your plan, to the core foundation, he mentions the ancients, you know, like to looking back on how you can build forward, as opposed to doing cheap shit like fake titty women around you and stuff, which is... You'd be surprised at how many people have told me that in any of my media content, there is a lacking of big-breasted women to keep their interest. And it sounds crazy, but I have people tell me that if I threw in half-naked women, they would watch my videos. And I'm like, well, that's good to know. Either way, this is my favorite track, I think, so far that we've heard. It was short, concise. The way that it used the auto-tuning effect to further prove the point, how it gradually comes in so you realize you can understand what he's saying at the end, that it actually could be dope bars, but your old ass just doesn't want to learn to listen. Anyway, it's a 5 on 5. It's one of my favorite tracks on this project for reals. And I guess a lot of people are just into brainwashing.
I guess so.
Not in love with my steeds, cause I exposed toes weak with the mic. It must be Billy Jeans. LGBT.
This is another two-parter. So there's a poem, which is like the second half of the 6 minutes, which is as long as the song, which made me go, why couldn't we have separated the poem from the song on this one? That's why. I'll tell you when I get to my grade. And there's the song. I like the song. It comes in kind of strong. They want to kill us. I don't know, they kill us all in the head. Should have shoot us all till we're dead. Because they're brainwashing, they're brainwashing, so stay watching, and this is fair. It's something I've come to realize. You read a whole lot of books, or worse, you work for a software company in digital marketing, and you look at the tactics that are used, like, you start learning a lot about advertising. Just advertising. Advertising is brainwashing. I mean, gambling.
Oh, yeah.
So I was playing the new Mario Kart game on my phone, and I realized I had to uninstall it because there was a risk I might spend money. I know it sounds fucking dumb, and it really is, but it's actually kind of fun. It's a little fun, nitty game. But the only way to stay competitive is if you can level up your characters. But they cap all sorts of crap, and they design it all just to keep you hooked. They make it just fun enough for the first couple of days that you're addicted to the idea of playing this when you're taking your next poop. And the next thing you know, hours can go by. But really what was bad about this is Nintendo, and at first I saw gamers ranting, and I'm like, why are they all mad about this? And then I realized, holy shit, you could end up putting $100 into this game because you're brainwashed into thinking that getting Mario counts. And that's just how video games do it. Music does it too. Everybody does it. It's just fucked up, man.
Yep.
So, everybody talking like they want to kill somebody, but very few have squeezed tight actually caught a body. That's fair. A lot of people want to talk that violent life, but really haven't done it. Hell, half of the rap of the 90s we reviewed has been guys saying, y'all aren't real, and you talk about doing this stuff, which leads me to believe, like, everybody just getting on the mic and saying it. Hell, we're watching Top Boy.
Yeah.
You remember that scene? We're not talking to the Netflix one, but like in the first two series from like back then, the BBC ones. In the second series, you see a dude trying to like get a little kid rapping, and the kid's rapping all this stuff, and everybody in the room's like, he hasn't lived any of this. They're just kind of there to QA the bars to make sure that they sound good enough,
Yeah.
Eating from the tree of good and evil philosophy, Ultra MK LSD, supposed to officially be canceled by Congress in 1970 until they convened and seen that a drum machine. And I had to Google that Ultra MK thing, and Ultra MK is the brainwashing experiments of the CIA, and this happened. And guess who brought it up? The fucking cannabis book I'm reading. They started with cannabis and LSD at the same time, but unfortunately giving people high concentrations of cannabis is not an effective way to extract information because people would get a little giggly and not so focused, and it wasn't useful. But they focused a lot on feeding people LSD and doing it. And again, this is true, so it's cool to like kind of see that kind of stuff. But the goal was to be able to brainwash people. And then they gave up on that because they found a much better way to do it. Music. And music is an effective way to brainwash people. So why bother drugging your population if you can use music to drug your population? And if you look at what music has done, music has drugged the population. There's probably a lot of the kids are doing old white lady painkiller stuff. Like, it was supposed to be old white ladies that did painkillers in the suburbs.
Supposed to be us guys.
In the burbs, rich ladies, that's who did that kind of drugs. And then rap music brought it to everywhere. And let's be real, I didn't know what Percocet was really except for Future. And a lot of my drug knowledge in the last 5 years of stuff outside of marijuana and Molly comes from hip-hop. And even then, Molly comes from hip-hop.
Yep.
Half of the drugs I know about, and I'm not saying I'm pop
Like they're
hip-hop.
slang words like a lot of the time too.
I mean, I didn't know that Xanax was like what it really was or what it did and a lot of things until rappers started telling me that they were doing all of this shit and they were listing drugs I'd never heard of, and I'm like, this is bad, these kids,
Yep.
Or they at least brought painkillers out, and so yeah, there's an opiate epidemic today. Everyone's hooked on painkillers, but somehow music made painkillers the drug of choice. That's an interesting thing. And that's why pop music's so trash now. Because, back in the day when, like, pop music was made from actual LSD and marijuana and cocaine, the music sounded better.
Way back in the day, that used to be, like opium dens and stuff like that. So, I mean, people have been using, like, opioids.
Well, that was not so common in America. That was, like, downtrodden to the Chinese quarters and stuff. There's some real history with that, actually. Again, the opium dens are in the weed book because they were correlated together as different things in terms of the prohibition efforts. It was weeds banning is largely linked to efforts to control the opium outbreak and people grouping the two drugs together, and that's why in the States marijuana is a Class A thing because of that dude who made Reefer Madness and a few other things. But the way they snuck through the weed shit was by making it they're linking it to opium in terms of its criminality and everything. But then they also banned all the evidence of researching weed. Anyway, not related to this track so much, but the idea that music was used to push shit like conditions Walking Dead kings to mix dirty sprites with liquid codeine. And if you think about how Pimp C passed away as an underground king dying off of codeine, that's an interesting line.
Yep.
And pills pop to cut speaker box, ears on lean, children kidnapped by cell phone screams, Snapchatting about DMs with porno queens. I want to do a side comment on technology. I know a lot of people get mad at people for walking around like this and staring at shit, but I would like to point out to the world that I almost walked into a wall the other day with my face in a book doing the same thing that people accuse the kids doing now. And once upon a time, people would have their face in books and were just as oblivious to life.
Yep.
I agree the danger of technology is real. I'm not anti-cell phone like everyone else is. I think that's getting some bad shit. However, Snapchat about DMs and with porno queens, gosh, I would have loved to have been 16 with Snapchat. I mean, it sounds terrible. It would have been dope. It's better than MSN cameras.
I guess.
So Chippendale Rap have got a book with them at 16th. Anyway, just kind of pointing out a little bit about the brainwashing tactics of technology and media. Industry is not in love with my steez because I suppose these hoes is weak with the mic and must be Billie Jeans. LGBTQT hit the hood so hard that I first thought it was the new EBT. So in a sense, what he's commenting here is how when people finally came out with being gay and whatnot, they used it like a social credit in the same way as that EBT, which is like the food stamps and shit. I guess Planned Parenthood Roots was outmaneuvered on how to make my people's ass bleed and stop the growth of these black seeds. So you may question where the hatred of the LGBTQ whatever comes from, but there is a lot of definite ideas out there that make it clear, that make it look like there's a clear effort to get black people to stop breeding. Whether Planned Parenthood encouraging disproportionately black women to get abortions. I mean, there's a lot of socioeconomic arguments from a white perspective that justify how it's not racist, but I can also understand from the perspective of how for like hundreds of years we basically tried to control black people through like everything. That like it's also possible that even stuff like Planned Parenthood's efforts are in a sense population control. So the problem with the LGBTQ stuff is that it is perceived in a way where it prevents black men from breeding, which is a problem because one of the solutions is to multiply, is to have your people grow. And it's fucked up that there's so many things being promoted in the hood to keep you from having kids, you know, like to take away the children. It's almost essentially erase black people from the planet. Whether or not I agree with the LGBTQ side of that argument, I see both perspectives, but I think that the perspective of hatred that we're seeing here towards it, or not hatred per se, but the commentary on it, has a grounding when you look at the bigger picture of the racism that's happened over the last 100, 200 years or whatever.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm in the spit that Slick Rick went with all the lottie-dotties, turned up and turned off the Bacardi under the wheel. The pressures keepers they embody, slaves on a stylish leash, co-branded Bugatti, sad and depressed and strung out because they can't tell nobody. So everyone's fucked up, feeling empty, but can't really be honest because these are all the brainwashed norms that exist in the hood and how people are. Like you can't even be honest about your emotion because that's problematic. Anyway, and then it just kind of ends in terms of the song before we go into the poem part. You have any comments that you want to add to all this?
I mean, overall, I just found it sounded like a party beat. It's like pretty hype and pretty kind of creepy at the same time as well. But in like my opinion, this one could definitely be like a hit. And it definitely is talking about a lot of relevant things that are issues in today's society. And I think that that's also something that's interesting and can be talked about. We already talked about a bunch of it. And I just think it's really cool. And I like that it's making references to kind of older rappers. I think he makes reference to Slick Rick, which I'm always happy to hear when they do things like that, the OG rappers. Yeah, and then when like the song is done, kind of like halfway through it or whatever,
It's the poem.
and then it's like the poem, and like it's just sort of like it's interesting because you can hear like this guy speaking, and it's there. You can hear sort of like waterfalls kind of trickling in the backwards.
This is
and
California
like,
Ghost King.
is it him?
I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah,
him.
I wasn't sure if it was him or not.
It sounded the same.
I think so.
Here's the thing. I find he sounds a lot like Urban Logics does in real life when he's talking. So it sounded like Urban Logics was talking, so I just assumed it was California Ghost King. I mean, they sound different when you hear them rap next to each other. But if you're not hearing
have a
them
good
right next to
match.
each other, they sound similar sonically, vocal tones and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. But I mean, they're having that sovereign music movement, right? So it's nice just having like that kind of tranquil kind of sound because like you're hearing like birds kind of chirping, like the water's trickling kind of in the background or gently flowing, and it's just nice. And then just sort of like the power of music and how it can be used in like the speech. And he talks about like different explorations of music and how it's interesting and kind of takes a moment to get on their sort of like speaker box and speak about his way of thinking and like and about his music and how he makes his music, and just kind of wants people to know all of this. And I mean, it's really cool. It's like it definitely has like a strong, powerful message. Like the whole song is like solid, well put together. And I really like this one. And like I said, I think this one could be a hit. I give this a 4.75 on 5.
So, unfortunately, we were not given the lyrics to the poem. So I just said, fuck it. This is too good to not quote parts of it directly. And I wrote a whole bunch of it down for us.
Nice.
Whoa. What did I just do? Touchscreens are awesome, but sometimes you lose your place in your document. Give me a second, folks. So he goes, music is a science. It's a state of knowing. It is being knowledgeable as opposed to willful ignorance or misunderstanding. This might not be in order. Music is a skill that is acquired by experience, study, and observation. I'm like, I have experience. I study and I observe. Yeah, musicking. Music is a conscious use of the scale of creative imagination. Music is when this knowledge is used to develop a specific plan to acquire a specific result. And I'm like looking at it, and it's almost like music is the essence of culture, everything, project management, name a thing. Music is everything. Music is everything pure in knowledge. I like the part about how it creates a leader, effective followers emulating greatness. And then he did this little bit closer to the end of it. Fucking thing. Where he goes, music is the chronological equation in which the sum equals the present conditions of earthly life. The constant adding of new variables to this equation can cause harmonic relationships. Music is when ideas, thoughts are brought into existence through intellectual, spiritual, and physical effort. Music is when one united group composed of different individuals having different mental, spiritual, and physical characteristics retains personal identity while contributing desirable properties to the whole in mutual agreement. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty esoterically fucking dope. So music is like the great combining agent of life. And what's really freaking fascinating is I was listening to some Lebanese pop music as it was in C major with 4x4 timing. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy. So the instruments change, but around the world, pop music is in 4x4 timing. Why? Because it's the great communicator regardless of all that shit.
I guess so.
I mean, yes, there are places where it's not the case, but it's the most accessible timing to the average person who doesn't get music in all cultures. I thought this was brilliant. I didn't think it was 4.75 brilliant. I thought the poem was a 4.5 and the song was a 4.25 as it was kind of playing in that range sonically for me. It's a good track. It's like, so when I say my grades, keep in mind, it isn't is it like fantastic? This is subjective. Subjectively speaking, my enjoyment of the song, not the quality of its construction and shit. But that poem was next level. So I'm averaging this track at a 4.35, and had they separated it, it would have been 4.25 and 4.5 respectively.
Okay.
Because I really like the poem, but at the end of the day, I don't know. Like that first song was like a banger. That second track were like distractions. Those were sounds that were really grabbing me more than these sounds are grabbing me. But the content is the content is just so engaging. But that's one part of the element of a song, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we could move along then to the next one, which is a little shorter. It's not 6 minutes this time.
Yeah.
So strike a pose.
Chokeholds and taser jokes. We get jacked for Bibles, dope, hope, and rose gold. Clean.
I like this one as it's like more of that club singly hit feel than the other one. That, you know, when he just comes in, that little ghost wasn't raised up in Compton, you know, but young ghost got it up in Dina though. You're just like, yeah, you know, Bubs and Clear spawn heads like Billy Goats, and you bow rams over pretty hoes. I'm just like, yeah, that's got that vibe. Strike a pose. You know, that just hit me. I felt like as far as like a hook that hooked me, this one really might be one of my favorite hooks. Plus,
Yep.
I think it's cool that he's like, yo, I'm not from Compton, I'm from Dina. And I forgot where it was, but I had Googled it at one point. And hold on, I'm going to Google it right now. So if we do that, it's Altadena, California. That's a different place than Compton.
Yep,
Because,
sounds like it.
I'm that familiar with these hoods and stuff. How do you think about this song?
This one definitely has, like, I think it's funny that you and I sometimes have, like, different appeals to different things. But anyways,
It's because we're humans.
because we're humans, right? This one has sort of like an eerie, sort of funky beat. I think that there's sort of like this weird noise kind of thrown in. I just want to like pull up some of like the lyrics because I thought that they were like pretty cool. Let me one
Do you
second.
have them?
I have them. I'm just looking. Which one do I want to say?
All of them.
All of them. Like they're all pretty cool. Oh, I went too far.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'm holding on.
Okay.
Everyone's anticipation is high at this point.
Yeah, so I like that they threw in like the whole Dina thing. I thought that was fun. Just like overall, like I'll just go into the first verse. Hood revolts, chokeholds, and taser jolts. We get jacked for Bibles, dope, hope, and rose gold. Clean, good, hot, dirty, paroled descendants of Atlantic slave trade illegally patrolled and controlled by a state that's de facto because we're de jure off the Petron. These black boys possesses no bars that we hold. And it's just sort of like the rhyme flow is like pretty sick. I mean, it's pretty good on all of them, but that one, I mean, I just thought it was like pretty damn good. And like I think like he's kind of also talking about like mug shots, I think sort of like overall, like in terms of like strike a pose, and that sort of black people, I think he's saying, you kind of know how to like strike a pose, maybe so that they know how to look like badass or tough in like their mug shots. Essentially, like they're just kind of used to or they are assuming that they're going to be taken to jail and be arrested for something, so why not figure out a way to make your picture look cool because it's going to be online and everyone's going to see it. So I think that that's sort of like what he's kind of talking about, like strike a pose like for all these things, because it's just sort of like so ridiculous that this is like a norm for a certain type of people, unfortunately. And I mean, I think the topic is definitely interesting and hard-hitting. I think it's never a dull moment in terms of like the things that he's talking about. Like there's always like something that's kind of like extreme and controversial that he's kind of covering, and I think that that's really interesting. At the meantime, throwing in biblical quotes and like ancient history it's just wild. And unfortunately, like the beat and the sound effects weren't necessarily my favorite, but everything else I thought was really cool. So I give this one a 4.35 on 5.
Okay. I like the beat and the sound effects.
See?
But I took it like from this is kind of looking at the hood and like strike a pose. I picture like the police, you're under arrest or whatever, or in a gang situation when they use their hand signs and whatnot. It's all striking a pose, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so all these people understand the different poses that you would have to strike, in a sense, to survive in this environment. But I got really distracted on this one. Distractions. And they have no record of all the albums we've sold. I mean, that's apparently something that we've heard about, is the level of unrecorded album sales that exist in this world. And let's say you come up to me and you give me your CD and I give you $10 and we have that financial transaction. That's not recorded by any of the people posting album sales. So there is something to be said about the non-digitally tracked people who still move units in the streets that never got the love and attention they deserve. The people who just like don't know. Like, you may have sold 500,000 units on an album and done it through door-to-door sales marketing, and then nobody literally has any proof or anything of it. Does that make it less true? I don't know. That's fine. Now with this new Milli, a Milli, we talking more bold, which made me picture Lil Wayne's track Milli, a Milli, a Milli, a Milli.
Good one.
A million here, a million there. I don't know. I have very mixed feelings on Wayne, but I do think that song grows on me over time. But anyway, people flash a milli for all for show. And then I saw a white black man posting our culture like he a prophet on some Moses Malone. And I'm like, when did Post Malone actually, like, he got put into the media headlight and people dragged him into that shit like he was trying to do that? And I feel like he's a dude who made some music and was like, yo, I'm just trying to make some music and it sounds like what it sounds like. And then everyone else tried to make him sound like he's the face of hip-hop in some way, and he got in trouble for saying not, like, he was, honestly, he was like, I'm not the face of hip-hop. Like, I feel like he tried to distance himself for it because of all of this, and I kind of feel bad for Post Malone. That guy is actually kind of talented. Whether or not people like him, that's a different story, but there's a lot of better examples than Post Malone. Post Malone got famous, sure, but Lil Xan would have fit that real perfect. That dude literally is like, I make music because I fucking hate it, and he's posting on the culture or whatever, but I guess it just works. And I just say that because I guess Post Malone comes up, and maybe there's some details I don't know, but I just have never seen him try to front like he's some representative of the culture in some way. I feel it's more people attribute that to him, which I don't know if that's 100% fair, but maybe I'm ignorant on this subject. I don't know. I like the verse below. It kind of flowed in. I feel like it's similar in tone at this point. We're still looking at the clones and the way music is being used to keep people on. In the second verse, when they put the gloves on you, it's an arrest of their opponents, the criminal justice system, a system where criminals get the justice because God heirs them, forgot what it is, plus lust, no trust gets us cuffed, bruised, thrust into prisons, or bust, thrust into prisons, walk in the yard stressing because we were just in, becoming a Muslim or better Christian, lost to the knowledge of your God, Yahweh's Hebrew Israelite children, our opponents keeping us caged, and whether locked in a big house or the little one under kin. So I took from that, like, you got a system that's basically trying to take the truth and shut it down on every single angle, lock you up in jail, where people kind of realize that Christianity might not be the right end result, or maybe there's some lies in that, you know? I kind of like that last line where he goes, abuse of authority, illegitimate, private gain, arrest of proponents to maintain the reign. So, yeah, we shut down people of power and lock them up and use our autocratic systems. And there's something to be said about America's war on drugs and its comparison to other autocratic regimes and how they treated people. Like, it's not that different what America did in the hood than what, like, Venezuela might do to its people. You know, I'm just going to say that. Whether or not you guys agree with me, that's fine.
Right.
I'm not an American. I'm a Canadian. What we did to natives is just as bad as what Americans did to black people. Not that we were good to black people, but what we do to natives in 2019 is just as bad.
I think the natives in America don't get treated any better.
That's true. But I'm not.
I think you can compare apples to apples in this case.
What I'm saying is Canada, I bring up the natives because it's really the easiest thing to point to go, Canada's not better. It's a little harder to find in my limited, easy to point to examples of the same level of systemic racism, because I don't know as much about Canada's history on that front as I do about America's history on that front. I just assume Canada
Because
was
Canada
bad
doesn't
too.
tell any of the bad stories in
That's
its
true.
history.
And on the real,
We're just the happy guys that come in and
Which is
save everybody.
obviously
We don't
crap.
do anything bad.
obviously crap. Everybody knows it, but
We're
I'm saying
people just
I
like
just
everybody else.
I don't know how much I haven't looked into Canada's racism quite to the same level of America's racism. I just know Canada's racist, so I'm less interested in it, which is a weird thing to state. But a lot of us
I
is
think
like,
it's just it was.
I think we copy American culture so
I
much.
think when it was happening, I think Canada was either we just didn't have black people,
No,
and then the ones that we did have, we didn't. I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't as bad.
Well, I don't think we ever had like a war on drugs quite like they did.
No.
Or things like that. Like, you know, there are differences in the way our prison system work.
Well, in
I don't
terms of
think is the
geography,
same.
where things are, obviously it's closer to like,
I don't.
the Mexican border and stuff
We
like that.
had a lot of
There was-
racist black with racism, and there's a lot of people here during these times. Like, it wasn't like we were innocent.
Of course,
I just don't
of
think we had a
course.
war on drugs quite like
We
that.
still have racists. They're still existing.
No, for real. Quebec has we have the People's Party with Maxime Bernier.
That seems just fucking racist.
Quebec is inherently kind of not good with its situations.
I mean, there's people everywhere. It's not just Quebec. There's people in Vancouver who are insulting Chinese people, and there's people everywhere who are insulting other people. So
There's a difference between insulting people and systemic racism.
racist towards them.
There's a huge difference between systemic racism and prejudice. Prejudice and racism are not the same.
Yes.
Bigotry is more of a catch-all term. So I think we often confuse bigotry and racism. So when racism has a power element to it, where you need to be in a position of power
But it's
to be
white
racist.
people that are constantly.
Well,
the
in Vancouver,
racist.
China would be a justifiable as a position of power in Vancouver to be the actual oppressors of racism. So in Vancouver, modern world today, weirdly enough, China's the majority. Anyway, just saying, it's about power. Who has the power can be racist to the people under them. That's how I understand racism linguistically. I might be wrong, but this is what I understand.
Anyways, unfortunately, I still think white people have most of the power.
Yes, that's changing. Soon China has the power, in my opinion. I think China's going to make a serious play. But that's neither here nor there. I thought this track was pretty good. I gave it another 4.35. I feel like this album has been bringing forth a certain consistency. Sonically, it's not my go-to hip-hop sounds, but I'm into that faster. I like certain things a little bit more. But content-wise, this is fresh. Like, this has got, like, that depth that makes it, like, impossible to not want to just think about and have deep conversations and whatnot.
All right, well, let's talk about the rulers and the peoples.
And the people.
Rulers and the people.
Rulers and the people.
Rulers and the people.
Rulers.
I might be crazy, but I think that this is meant to be a bit of a turning point on the album.
Okay.
So here we have like, it's more of like, I feel like he's taking a little more of a prominent role here. Say rulers and the people, just kind of repeated. So it's showing there is a core fundamental class divide in life. There are rulers and there are the people. And I believe this. There are sheep, there are wolves. You know, like there's always been this division of people. There's the masses, the ones who want to educate and go and lead those masses. So we have him here going like, give me my scepter and treasure buried under legislators, drunken sailors, use slave labor to work their acres. I draw circles as a creator, like ceiling fans in elevators, because they draw circles. Get it? Like it's the motion, it draws a circle. Boxed in, made close to catch fans, which is interesting because an elevator's boxed in, as you know, so it's clever. Catch fans, like people supporting him, hoping to get major moral failures, but will do favors to get that paper with anti-saviors, and any day they will slayers, tours, obscures, they're sending Judite princes, of course. And you know, you get the sense that it's like similar type of shit. He's gonna be a ruler. He's gonna be a leader with this and come in with integrity. Everyone's got the desires to it, but it comes down to how you get there that determines if you're the ruler or the people. I heard their financial programs. I got the program and got my ass to start drum programming. Walk with the Yahweh Ben, Yahweh's plan. I upped my poverty to riches program and had a meeting with some Germans in Long Beach screaming that Norse while speaking in coarse runes about the goons they spoon with residuals made from blind iTunes, but nah, homies. And I think what he's saying there is I heard there was ways to make money, so I got my shit together so we could do it ourselves in a really roundabout kind of way. My people are made to sit upon their own thrones, never take loans, but through the speakers and headphones we water dry bones, build mansions through uncut stones. We are the real shit, the core, and etc. So I think like what this song ends up doing is kind of establishing we are the rulers here to lead the people.
Right.
Which is a bit of a difference because we've spent the album contextualizing the world and the state of things, and I think over the next couple of songs we see him kind of take his role
I think that he
as the
also
Ghost
knows
King.
that he's the one teaching them. He's the teacher. He's the he's the one in front. And I think he is kind of like a ruler.
And then it just repeats it a lot at the end, and he goes a little fun with it. I like when he goes, these rap devil dogs as females, bitch may bewitch the people to get played them sent to switch the way the game is being played. Or we're talking rulers and God's people. Who are the rulers and God's people? We're talking rulers and the people. And just kind of repeats it out till it fades out at the end. Mm-hmm. I feel like there wasn't as much side conversation-y stuff in this track. It was a little more straightforward, a little more to the point. But I just picture him at this point of the album. If there's a story, the rest of this album has been him kind of preaching in a more passive way, him going around the world. And now I just picture him stepping up with like a cane and a shepherd type shit as he's seeing the masses of the different people he's gathered together and taking his role to like teach them and shit. I thought that was pretty fresh. So yeah, to me that was cool. I thought this song was alright. It's definitely sonically, I found it was like, it's alright. Like it's not that it's bad. I'd have to be in a particular mood to go through and like just bump and like vibe to a lot of the sounds on this album from the beats and stuff. Like it's just not my favorite in that regard. On the other hand, lyrically, it's alright too. This one isn't my favorite. I think this might be the simplest of the songs we've come across so far, and I think what's been getting me off is the complexity, and maybe I missed the point on this one, but I still think it's like a good thing to listen to, so I give it a 4.25.
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly. It definitely, it's got like some tight rhymes in like the first verse. I thought that was great. I found the chorus on this one a little lackluster. For the first time, considering I thought that most of their choruses, or his choruses, were pretty good. This one just didn't feel like it just didn't do much for me, unfortunately. And I feel like even having listened to the song a few times, I felt like even he knew that this one wasn't quite like the hit that the other ones are. But I mean, they can't all be the best, that's what makes them the best. So this is also another good song. I like his rapping, again, sort of at the end of the first verse, but I found this one just to overall be like less energetic, and that personally, in my opinion, this one could have been improved on, but I just don't know necessarily how. So I gave this a 4 on 5.
I think it's just a taste thing.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm going, stylistically, it's different than the other ones.
Yeah.
And I'm having stylistic issues with it, which is the part where objective and subjective need to be taken into consideration.
Of course.
Objectively, I think it consistently fits this project. I don't believe it's of the same quality, this particular track, as everything else on it. I think everything else, this might be my least favorite one on the album.
Same.
But from a principle, the point of the track, I like it for the sake of the album. Like, I feel like there needed to be a song like this around here based on this project. Yeah. So it works. And I don't know, maybe it's just the hook. Maybe if the hook had been a little spicier or something, I don't know. I don't know how it could be better. That's a weird conversation, I guess, because who the fuck am I?
Constructive criticism.
But my enjoyment is that one is less of the other ones. But if I'm going to compare it against a lot of other things, I guess it's better. It's really well produced, and I can see how somebody else is going, you're fucking crazy, and some of that other shit you liked is not as good. So it's in that realm of stuff. It's not like the performances are weaker. It really is, what do you want out of a song when you're listening to it?
Yeah.
Some people like punk music, some people don't.
Let's check out Power of Gold.
All the homies he knew is rich off a rap or they gone. And that Maserati pimp bullshit he never been on.
This one starts off with a voice I did know. It's Man Blac, who does the little intro. And I thought it was cool because he kind of hypes it up, you know. Sound boy, spin that record, else we fire, bun down the whole place like Babylon upon a spit. He has a more patois-styled accent going on that I don't know that I can pull off by any means. But he's Man Blac. He's representing Bluefields, Westmoreland, Crown City, California, New Mount Zion, Montreal. We're building with my brothers. And it's cool because I've seen this dude in real life on a stage. And as far as people I've met in Montreal, and maybe I'm misreading the guy, maybe I'm ignorant, but I've never seen Man Blac be anything other than the most altruistic, kind, giving, and selfless man I think I've encountered in this city in terms of music. Like, the rest of us got like more like a different vibe. But Man Blac, he's such a humble servant type, like a legitimate, humble guy where I almost feel like a guilty person by how pure he comes off when I speak with him. And I don't know if you're gonna watch this Man Blac, but that's my impression of you, because you was one of the goodest, bestest people I've met in this state. And like, I don't know, for years I felt like of all the people, I know I've ran into him a couple of times in the streets since and whatnot. I just ran into him downtown, and I respect his grind, his humility. It's like other people might have to try to be humble. Man Blac just kills it. He just does it so well. Anyway, I guess it's a pleasure to say I've made your acquaintance in life. And then the chorus is performed by EliWitz Gold, and this was nice. The power of gold. And you just vibe into it. It's got this soulful feel, and I'm like, maybe we needed a bit more of that on that album. That was my first thought. I'm like, yo, a couple more tracks with a girl singing. Oof, sonically, it got me into it. I really like that. I like the juxtaposition of a singy hook with a lady singing and, you know, that kind of rap coming in. That's just me. And the power of gold is an interesting thing because we think about gold. Gold once was the gold standard, how money was based on the power of gold, which just economically it's based off of nothing now. So all of our money is based off of the idea that the U.S. economy doesn't fail, is the truth. And then gold just is everything. It could be representing spiritual wealth. It just represents wealth in a sense, you know? And then we got California Ghost King doing the first verse, power of gold from my brother's parole, because power was off and they couldn't withstand the cold. And through the service roads is heavily patrolled. He serve it bold on the corner because he need to get warmer as uncontrolled. You just picture people in their attempts to get powered, maybe being a little reckless with it, encountering other kinds of power. The scholarship then fell through, so he is unenrolled, and all the homies he know is rich off a rap or they gone. The Maserati pimp bullshit is all he ever been on. Freestyle fellowship and woo up in his headphones. Baby mama about the business and been strong, give birth to his son. Another one about to come, and she still about to carry little man across the town, no stroller. She was bitching over it, but he wanted to curse her. And I'm like, is he kind of rapping about himself, how he went down the bad path, found a proper woman, got kind of, you know, his kids coming out and, you know, got a little focused, and through the power of this woman that grounded him or something. I wasn't 100% sure that's what his verse.
Maybe.
Do you not feel like that autobiographical kind of feel to it?
Yeah. Yeah, now that you're saying that, I'm like reading it. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
Queen seen them crystal clear together. They learned to earn their gold with sight like ancient Israelites, seers overcoming fear. So it's like he was lost, he met her, they partnered up, and now they're collectively moving towards the power of gold and, you know, and all that.
But I also thought it had to do with, anyways, I'll
what
let you
did you
finish.
think? What did you
like,
think?
I thought it kind of had to do with, like, loving Christ and God and, like, that kind of, like, spiritual wealth, like you were saying. But I think it also, you know, it definitely ties into, like, yeah. I think it's also, like, he's questioning, like, his own worth. And, like, if he's maybe, like, as worthy as gold, and, like, sort of, like, what, you know, and she talks about like does doing what she can to like leave behind sort of like a legacy for her grandkids. Like she's kind of seeing like that sort of future. Like she wants to leave something that's worthy for her grandkids to be like respecting her. Like it's not necessarily like
so maybe the power of gold is your offspring, because he does kind of make it sound like in his verse that through having kids he gained focus, and you hear that a lot. I have a lot of people telling me I need to breed and then I'll discover the power I need to unlock the next level of my life, and that I'm holding myself back by not having kids now. I'm not the one anyone has to convince for me to have children, just throwing it out there. I'm not the one people need to convince. It does take a lady to be willing to give up what she needs to give up to do it, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But Cali Greens does the second verse, and I don't think I've heard of EliWitz Gold or Cali Greens, which I guess is to my detriment, but she starts off with, you can keep the paper and save the trees. I want the sweet nectar from those honeybees. And I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. I was going to try to show it to you, but when we got the file, there's just this emoji of a honeybee. And I was like, is that part of the song? It's very cute. And then she comes in and it's just so nice. Like, you can cape the paper and save the trees, you know? Like, I don't need that. Just give me this natural honeybee sugar stuff. And I'm like, it's so nice because...
Natural, pure.
But it's...
And that's gold.
To nature. Mm-hmm. Now, it might sound kind of whatever, but you have the guy, but you have like the man coming through with all this stuff, and like the first thing the woman says in the verse is, I want the sweet nectar from those honeybees. And I'm like,
Honey is delicious.
I would never have thought to even come up with a line of like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a nice other side to have here. Mm-hmm. And kudos to California Ghost King for putting a female MC on the album like that. As only like really featured artist. I respect that shit. That's important to me. Don't contend with my content, get gold with King, no nonsense. You know, it's like we're gonna build, we're gonna accomplish. And then, you know, Yahweh got dough, the records trying to outbid, but we done outwit the action off our tidbits of a higher lift, witness our planet's orbit, little hoes, silly rabbits rapping in corsets, farming, slave harvested carrots, while wicked world eyes follow the fake breastises. I'm taking my inheritance, serving God is echoed. You know, and it's just kind of the sense that we have this integrity. We're moving forward towards the path of whatever, while other people are kind of following in, I guess, for lack of a better term, the wicked ways of the world. And it's interesting to hear the female perspective on this, because it has basically been the dude's point of view like the whole way through, and she's bringing up stuff that, I don't know, had California Ghost King said it, it would have come off a different way than having, say, a lady talk about, yo, the world's following these women with fake breasts and shit, whereas us real women is out here grinding. And I think that's the kind of stuff that the point is better made by having a lady come through and show that there's more to it even than just what we've seen.
Yep.
And then, loving Christ Yahweh and my little brother Matthew, what's the message I want to convey today? Broke is your destiny if you disobey. And essentially you get to this, like, you know, love God, humble yourself out, live for like greater than yourself, you know, a lot of the core tenets of a good spiritual healthy life. But I love the idea of how she wants to create generational wealth for like her grandchildren and her great grandkids. And I think more of us should be thinking like that, because so many of us are thinking so immediate that, like, if you look at the Jews, a lot of Jews suffered in the 20s to create generational wealth that really let the Jews take over in today's world. Maybe there's other groups that can study that tactic and apply that same terms to take over, culturally speaking, in the future.
That's exactly the same sort of thing Jay-Z said. So it's been said before, very publicly.
So I thought this was a cool song. It was softer, nicer. I give it another 4.25. I enjoyed it. I have to say that you can feel a teensy experience gap of the rhyming of California Ghost King compared against Cali Greens. Not that she's bad by any means, but I feel like he's more experienced and can do more with the flow than she brought to the table on this verse, but her content was equal to his, if that makes sense to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had like a very nice flow, and she talks about that she doesn't kind of fit in any box, and I think that that's kind of interesting. You know, she tries to be her own individual and not necessarily follow what's the cool thing, and I always appreciate when people are weird. I did like the the start with Odd Man Blac and like his sort of like Jamaican reggae kind of sounding influence, and he also shouted out in like Montreal, and that's always fun to hear. I get excited because we don't really hear that very often, so it's fun to hear that. So yeah, I mean nothing really too crazy to say that we already haven't mentioned. I thought it was a cool beat. It's smooth, and I liked it. I like the flow. I think that the Cali Greens, she sounds a little bit like maybe she's at near the beginning of her career, which is cool. And I think that she really can impress us, I think, but it just wasn't quite there yet. But I think that if we keep an eye on what she has to give us in terms of her artistic works, I think it's gonna get. I think she's gonna be somebody to keep an eye on. So I like this one. I gave it a 4.35. I thought it was nice.
All right, so there's one more on this project.
It's a big one.
What's it called, Bonnie?
Qualities of a Ruler.
Cool.
Melodies capture the image and sever its extremities. Cut their twit, print, blogs, radio, TV, and movies.
17 minutes.
And 41 seconds.
Damn. So it starts off with a sample from, I don't even know if it's a sample. I think it's the entire track of Watts Prophet's Funny How Things Can Change, which is funny how things can change, and then it kind of evolves into dropping a certain word and then evolving that N word into a gun. And then using, kind of just evolving it. And honestly, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant little poem where it repeats the same line, subtly changing it to evolve it. And it's really charged. It's off of the album, The Black Voices on the Streets in Watts.
And I like that it's sort of like a cappella, and you can hear him like playing the drums or somebody playing the drums. And I like that it was just a little bit live and raw sounding.
And then the track like kicks in, and it's got like a good, I think, banger energy to it. This one I think could be like a fucking hit as far as you were describing. Maybe not with the outro attached, like if you cut off the outro. But with that little intro bit, it flows into the hook of this song, so it's almost letting you know the source or inspiring of it. And then he goes, hip hop started off in the West. I know a lot of y'all gonna contest, but, and I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of people that would contest to that. I don't know about where hip hop started off. I'm not the one qualified to make that answer.
Right.
But that's the first time I've heard somebody say it started off in the West ever. So I'd love to know more, California Ghost King. Let's chit chat. Tell me about that. And then he repeats, it's funny how gonna change things. And he kind of repeats it until he goes, I'm a ruler, I'm a ruler, something prophets of a, I don't know what he said there. Because we didn't get all the lyrics on this one.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to guess a little bit. And I put real effort into transcribing on this one because there were some great lines. And I'm like, no, we can't go all effort for 11 tracks and then drop the ball because I'm lazy. So I did it. And then he starts out with Watts Prophet, I'm the new Amdi. And Amdi is a guy from the Watts Prophet who I believe set it up. So he's kind of tying himself in like, I'm representing these guys.
Okay.
Glad I Googled. I only found that out because I Googled what the sample is, which I'd heard before, and I wanted to know. These Hamlets over Hamilton ballads by Anthony while talking intellectually with Anthony Iglesias. But that's a cool line. A Hamlet, these Hamlets, because a Hamlet is like, I don't really remember what it is.
It's a small community. It's like a small community.
But then if you think about like the poem Hamlet, and it has another connotation added to it, so it kind of like Hamlet's over Hamilton ballads by Anthony Hamilton, I think is the guy who did the Hamilton thing. I might be wrong about that. Either way, while talking intellectually with Anthony Iglesias, I don't know who the fuck that is. Nacho cheese. I got a gangbang mentality about morality. Murderous slumber is the normality. Timmy Turner better blasphemy. And I like the fact that he brought up that Timmy Turner thing because it made me think of that designer track Timmy Turner, which was commenting on white boy shooters, which was like the only sort of conscious thing designer ever did. With the burner, now Turner's got an enslaved master's ass for me, but past tragedies don't shade us from present reality. Formalities or strategies aim claim over the galaxies because these rap buddies are madmen full of vanities, and there's no sympathies for these swag junkies. Bars about them being real and not recognizing California Ghost King's ruling qualities. So he's intellectually dope, spitting that real shit. He's the real hip-hop. and the Mother Cats is not. This might be the most 90s hip-hop track we got out of the dude so far. But I like it, man. The swag junkies. That is what people have turned into. You know, just looking fly, being fresh, this vapid, like, little, like, swag. Like, the fact that software companies use swag as a term to sell their fucking giveaway merch to people to rep their brand should show you where swag has gone. But then people being real but not recognizing real when they see it is problematic. And then I don't know exactly when the chorus kicks in. I just wrote random bars down that I thought were substantial. Spare some change, a nickel every dime, quarter, penny. And I was like, that's funny, because he mentions a bunch of change types that you can get. I really like that. It's funny how they all look one way, and the penny look at me, and the penny look like me, and the penny look like me. Copper tone, a megaphone, but they can't block sun rays like the Terradome. Destroy your Android and iOS phone. My applications are more powerful, far beyond. So if you look even at the money, the brown money is worth less than the white money, and the silver would be more white,
Right.
but the brown money is worth less. And I never thought of that. I never even considered that maybe there's racism to the colors and money. But then we have the loonie, and the loonie's gold, but that's weird because we're Canada and our money was already colorful. Copper tone and omega. Anyway, destroy your Android and iOS phone. My applications are more powerful, far beyond. And like on the one hand, I agree. Android and iOS is kind of bad. On the other hand, I'm into tech, and I'll fight all the intellectual folks about how we could use these things as opposed to hating on these things. However, the government's tracking us, spying on us, and a bunch of other crap, so it's probably bad to have all these phones. Still, I love it. I'm a sucker for tech. Just a money-loving atrocity of mediocrity. Media, I see moves the mass of mummies into democracy, move to bow before the shrine of unholy democratic policies. So it's in the same way. The system's kind of jacked towards this corrupt way of being. That cause casualties and global catastrophes, but you're too worried about paying for those fees at the university, studying blind and can't even see. But I know the ghost got some underground heads chilling in the academy. And that's an interesting point, too. How many people willingly give up money to universities to be brainwashed into fucking stupidities? And I see a lot of university grads, and I see the brainwashing impact of it. Like, there's a lot of normative culture that goes into being a university graduate. And if you don't follow the rules and live that way, it's not good. The one thing university will do is train you how to be a proper middle-class pleb.
Yep.
It won't give you the top level of thinking, is I guess where I'm coming from. And then, I don't know. I like when he's like, Watts Prophet, I'm the new Amde, rapping black in a white world for Yahweh's sovereignty. And then the hip-hop started out the West, etc. And then the song kind of ends before we go into the long-ass outro speech part. What do you think?
I mean, it's really cool. I liked how he uses like I can't even think of the word. Like, he uses a lot of like H words like in one place, and then he uses like M words in like another place. I guess it's alliteration, right? And I thought that was kind of cool. And he talks about being a ruler, and then at like 4:31, about the song essentially changes, and then we get like horns and like rain sounds and like storm sounds kind of. And then we get the speech. So we get the whole kind of ending of the song, which is like the majority of it.
So I just want to say, I gave a 4.5 for the song. And then I'm not gonna, the other part, I don't know how to give it a grade.
Well, I'll talk about it. So it's like, again, I think it's the same person that was speaking in the other parts, I think. But he's talking about trying to do good and teach good, and wonders why people would want to hurt him for making and producing and teaching good. And if somebody tries to stop him or get in the way or whatever, they are the oppressors of good or the opposers of good. And it sounds like it could be a church, but there's not really anything that's specifically mentioned about God or Jesus or any like sort of biblical terms. But like you can hear, babies kind of crying. It sounds kind of like in terms of like the acoustics, it sounds like it's probably in a church or something like that. And just sort of believing in good people coming together and making something, and how all different people from anywhere in the world, and how they can look different from you and they can sound different than you. But they are all Israel. He calls them all Israel. Like they're all like, their hearts are all in the right place. Like those are all good people. They're all Zions, I guess, like, right, that's kind of what he's talking about. He's calling of the Zions, and it's sort of just like an interesting sermon that he's kind of giving. And like, this is so much that I'm not doing it justice, and it's so much that I don't necessarily
it's
understand.
Literally like 13-14 minutes of talking.
Yeah, and it talks about how everybody's sort of the descendants of Noah, and
it kind of like it's a little bit about, he's confused by there's divisiveness between good people, between people who are on the same team, but uses labels like nationalistic tendencies or religious labels or things like that to almost create divisiveness and separations, and how this is a logical fallacy inherently, because through the history of everything, we all kind of stem from the same place. And again, it's not really doing it justice, because he takes it from like every angle that you could possibly think of and like ties it in, and it's truly interesting to listen to.
And he's trying to show them that no matter what, even if they don't speak the same language as him or as whoever, he's still trying to teach them. He's trying to because he understands that they are important, they are part of him. But, they are they're the nation of Yahweh, and he also says he doesn't discuss particular religions when people are killing each other, and he just like, how can they be preaching religion and goodness and then be killing each other? And he mentions like Ireland and how the Protestants and the Catholics were killing each other, and essentially it's the same core fundamentalities of what they believe, and he's just like flabbergasted that this was happening. And his focus is what all religions are supposed to be about, goodness. And he just kind of talks about that Yahweh is the God of Israel, and then it just sort of ends. And overall, I thought it was a cool track. It's a bit long for regular listening, but the sermon is cool, and I like that it's something that you might listen to over and over again, and you might just like leave it on.
I feel like, so what I really like about having this little speech here at the end, it's like, have you ever been on a Facebook debate and somebody's like, what are your sources? And then you're like, oh, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, fucking got 4 minutes in my whole break. I don't have time to be Googling you my sources. Go fucking do your own research. But no, instead, he gave you one of his sources. Yo, check this out. Go Google from there. Here's a little starting point for you.
It's definitely something that's going to, I think, hopefully inspire people, and is going to get people to look into what he's talking about and to try and figure that out. And it certainly leaves the listener with a strong message as to what he believes and what he's trying to inspire people with. And he's just trying to create goodness in the world. And I think that that's really cool. And I think that that's really like a pure good motivator. And like the whole thing was great. Like the beginning part was fun. Like the middle part was fun. And like the sermon part was interesting. So it's not that it was like it didn't feel like 17 minutes, where sometimes they definitely do. It was nice to listen to.
And you listen to a song 3 times in a row as part of your habit for a review. Yes. And it takes an hour to get through one song. You feel that 17 minutes.
It definitely felt like there were significant parts to this, which I thought was fun.
And I don't want to say that disrespectfully. I meant you could feel this was long, but it never got boring.
Right.
It didn't get uninteresting. I would have chopped it into a skippable track personally. That's my point of view. But
I mean, it has great rhymes and like a fun beat, and it's just everything was interesting. Each part was good.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was cool. Still, I give this song a 4.5, and I'm just kind of discounting that outro because
I gave it a 4.4.
It's an optional listen.
Yeah.
As far as the actual album goes, because we've finally reached that point, I give the whole project a 4.43. Like, it is really good. I suppose, like, in the realms of anybody else that's in the mainstream today making music, it's equal quality to what anybody can produce.
Right.
And in a world where I guess everyone's going to have equal quality, he's as good as any of the lyrical guys, but what stands out is what he's saying. You don't hear a lot of people describing that level of depth in their music, in my opinion. There are some guys who do it. Like, I feel like you need a dictionary for Black Thought. You need a dictionary for a few people. When I say a dictionary, I mean Google. You have to go look shit up. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it really just felt profound listening to this. Like, I feel like the album really lived up to the name of the project. Like, this is going to be my musical call of Zion, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you the research. I'm going to fucking lay down the bars. I'm going to give you a message, and at the end of the day, you're kind of left with, all right, I need to be more aware, because there is a lot of evils out there trying to brainwash me out of control. Now, maybe I'm a bit the choir he's preaching to on this one in terms of content, but from the other end of it, it's inspiring to me to hear other people spit such like-minded feelings through deep philosophical bars like that. And I think it's the type of shit that I would herald as one of the nicest projects that I think will end up coming out in 2019. Regardless of who ends up hearing it or whatnot, I don't know how to answer how it'll do. I imagine, unfortunately, I think some people are going to listen to this and not really catch how brilliant a lot of these individual lines are. But it's not just the message. It's just from a rhyming perspective. How many times were it like that line connects to that line and it connects to that line and it's stupidly dope? He kept giving that kind of feelings too. And I like the fact that, again, you can re-listen to it. And every time you do, it's like you're going to, some other little part's going to pop out at you. And that to me is the best. That's what's said about the best rap songs I've heard of my life. So the fact that I can describe this album with the same kind of language I would use for the classics, for what I consider to be the greatest of what I've heard, I think this holds up well. Any grievances I have with the album aren't real grievances. They're, I don't know if I'm in the mood for the sound of this song as I'm listening to it type shit, more than it's good or bad, you know? Like, it's a solid, well-rounded album that I could see how the people watching this channel in general, being the more lyrical-driven old heads that they tend to be, might really appreciate what California Ghost brings to the table. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I gave this a 4.425 on 5, so at 88.5%. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. It definitely has, like, that flow of kind of overall different, like, sounds. Like I was saying earlier, I think it was on this part, where it definitely kind of sounds like 60s, 70s, and can kind of sound 90s, and yet still very modern at the same time. So it definitely has that kind of all-encompassing feel to it, and it's definitely about something that is new and is going to leave you with a lot to think about. So I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, like Dead Prez did. Give us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the last albums we talked about where I felt like it was just that jam-packed, full of diverse things to think about. So I guess thank y'all for watching.
Yeah.
That's the end. You can feel free to leave any comments, letting us know what you thought about days or anything really. Let us know what's up. Are you enjoying your Sunday? Well, it's Sunday as we're recording this. It's probably not Sunday when you're watching this. There's a 1 in 7 chance it's a Sunday when you're watching this. Let us know what you think. We'll make the effort to answer you. Feel free to like the video if you did. You can subscribe to the channel for more reviews. That would be real cool of you. Special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Blac, Hurricane, Linda Williams, and Coney Spice. They're dope. Helped us get a new camera. Soon to help us get a website and fancy looking sound panels and stuff. Yeah, Patreon. They get to tell us what albums to review sometimes. So we'll be doing an Esham review for Mr. DJ Blac Hurricane real soon.
Yep.
And if you want to tell us what albums to review, that's a good way for you to do it. Otherwise, you can just show your general support and love. Because, yeah, we put time and effort in. Like California Ghost King put time and effort in, whatever. So let us know what you think. Like I said, we appreciate everybody being here. I make music myself. You can check that out on this channel. I'm dropping an album soon, and it'll be available. I can say this now on the 17th. On the 17th of this very month, and California Ghost Kings will be on the 30th of this month. So we're October album release buddies, California Ghost King. I don't know if that's relevant, but this is my part to plug me. So thank y'all. Have a great day. Live long.
Bye,
and
guys.
motherfucking prosper, bitches.
Do what you need to do.